All right, next up in our $100 competition, we've got the Baltimore Ravens, and Dakota Sanders is going to be taking over this one. He did our Baltimore Ravens mock draft, and if you guys like it, make sure you share it around, make sure you like, make sure you comment. Oh, and subscribe to the YouTube channel would be great, because Dakota has a chance to win $100. So anyways, let's get started with a quick overview of the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, we have our quarterback in Lamar Jackson. Tight end is also a pretty solid situation with Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Charlie Kohler. Here we go with the yawning. I was fine. It's just something about talking. I don't know. Running back Keaton Mitchell looks good, but we don't have a ton of information. We also have Justice Hill for another year. Dalvin Cook, J.K. Dobbins, both free agents, and Patrick Ricard, the fullback, is also there, but just for another year, and he's also 30. At wide receiver, we got Zay Flowers, so that's one option. Rashad Bateman is in his final year, and also is just not super fantastic. Odell Beckham's leaving. We did sign Nelson Aguilar, but he's 31 years old. So I think we could use some extra bodies there. Offensive line looks good, but it's pretty superficial. Ronnie Stanley is getting up in age, and you can see that he's been declining since basically 2019. At left guard, with John Simpson being a free agent, we're left with whoever that is. At center, Tyler Linderbaum is probably our only good football player that is also a long-term option. Ben Cleveland, well, depends what you think of Ben Cleveland, I guess. He hasn't been great. He's a young player, but could you do better? I think absolutely. And then Morgan Moses, 33 years old, in his final deal. So again, the two tackles are very old, and we need to find a secondary guy. A left guard we just don't have. Our right guard is mediocre at best, and then we got Linderbaum. So it's getting to be a little bit tenuous until we can find some better options. Along the defensive line, Michael Pierce, very, very good football player, but he's 32 years old. Matabuike, we just locked up, so that's a good football player for the long term. Off the edge, by the way, as far as defensive tackle, I think we need more bodies for sure. We also have Travis Jones, but I wouldn't mind bringing in a couple extra people. Off the edge, we've got Jason or Odafe Owe, who had a good year, but this always makes me nervous. Is he just legit a solid guy now, or is there going to be some regression to the mean here? I don't know. But he needs help one way or another. Kyle Van Noy, Jadeveon Clowney, Malik Harrison, all free agents. I don't know if Harrison's coming back or not. But that leaves us with David Ajabo, Malik Ham, and Tavius Robinson. So I would love to get some more guys in here. Just get another powerhouse to go across from Owe would be great. At corner, obviously we got Marlon Humphrey. I mean, he's been pretty inconsistent, but he's fine. He's our starter. He missed 5 games due to injury this past year, and is 28 years old, so he's got a few more years left in him. Aside from that, though, Ronald Darby, Trayvon Mullen, Arthur Mollett all leaving. Brandon Stevens in the final year of his deal, and as you can see, not the greatest football player in the world. So we need some options there at cornerback. Linebacker, if nothing else, we need depth. I don't know the status of Patrick Queen. I know Roquan Smith is there and is playing well, which leaves Trenton Simpson. And although that grade looks good, it's based on one game, basically. So we need some bodies, if nothing else, because we have Roquan, Trenton Simpson, and Josh Ross, with Delshawn Phillips and Patrick Queen currently free agents. And even if Patrick Queen comes back, it wouldn't be the worst thing to get a little bit of depth. Safety is the only one that you look at and go, it's perfectly fine. Again, a little depth couldn't kill you. You got our Darius Washington behind Hamilton and Williams. If you bring back Darryl Worley, then I think you're just completely fine. Worley's 29 years old, but if you want to have a position that just doesn't need to be touched, then safety would be it. But let's go ahead and get into it. At pick 30, once again, 2 mocks in a row, Troy Fontenot. Or no, it wasn't Fontenot last time. Whatever. Troy Fontenot, he is a long-time left tackle, very good pass blocker. Run blocking took a little bit of a dip this past year, but he's been pretty consistent prior to that, so that was probably a fluke. But either way, very, very good football player. Once again, we need some options here. I don't know which one's going first or who goes where, but we need to start looking into the future at tackle, and that's where we're going first. At pick 64, Kalen King, cornerback, 21 years old, out of Penn State, 5'11", 191 pounds. He's one of those guys that 2023 is, if you just look at that, this doesn't look super great. You go back to his 2022, go check out that tape if you want to go watch Kalen King, but obviously had, there's even a comment here from Blake in the Facebook group, says Kalen King is dropping, bad Senior Bowl, bad year, can be had at 92 easy, which is fair enough, but it's entirely possible. And again, I know the Packers did it. I'm sure other teams did too. They watched the 2022 tape and said, I'm all in, right? That's what I'm leaning on. I think he can be that guy. I think he is that guy. And somebody pulls the trigger. But again, we need Marlon Humphrey to get a little bit of help. Kalen King's going to be that guy. At pick 93, McKinley Jackson, defensive tackle out of Texas A&M, 6'2", 325 pounds, big old boy, run defender. I mean, that's what he is. Not getting much by way of pass rush. I mean, 4 sacks, 14 pressures out of 230 attempts. About as good as you can expect from the guy, but hey, solid run defender, and as I mentioned, we got to beef up that defensive line a little bit. We got some guys, no doubt about it, with Pierce and Matabuike there and Travis Jones, but Pierce is going to be on the way out pretty soon, so it's a Pierce replacement. At pick, what pick are we on here? Jacob Cowing, pick 130, wide receiver Jacob Cowing. We're going to continue to take swings. Baltimore's been trying to get that wide receiver spot situated. Tons of draft picks, tons of free agents. Hasn't fully materialized, but we're going to take another swing with slot receiver Jacob Cowing, 5'11", 175, 75 PFF grade. You can see he's been pretty solid for a while. 5 years, 3 years at UTEP. He's been great every year. 2021 UTEP is him at his best, 1,300 yards, 19.7 yards per reception and 7 touchdowns. And then he also had really good years on either side of that. Arizona was, his second worst year, but still a solid year. 868 yards, 9.8 yards per attempt, and 13 touchdowns is where he really kind of shined. I don't know if maybe they moved him to the slot. I wonder, let's see. No, he's been a slot his entire career. They're almost 99% at UTEP. That's wild. But, so slot receiver, he's going to come in between, obviously, Zay and whoever else they're going to have out there. So hopefully slot is our biggest priority. At pick 132, 2 picks later, safety Tyke Smith out of Georgia, 5'10", 205. He is 23 years old. He's one of those strong safety slot corner hybrid type of guys, which is good because, again, we could use a little bit of help in the slot, and maybe that's kind of where we're leaning. Again, we've got good safeties. So Tyke Smith could come in as a slot. So you got Kalen King, you got Marlon Humphrey, you got Tyke Smith, and you got a rotational safety that can kind of play in the box once in a while if you need that kind of a deal. But really, really good year at Georgia, 84 grade, 73 run defense, 70 tackling, 83 pass rush. He had 9 pressures on just 32 attempts along with 2 sacks and 85.8 coverage grade. So that's my thought on how we're going to use him. But I didn't do the mock. I suppose I should read what he put in here, but I didn't. Dylan Johnson is the next pick at pick 133, so just one pick later. We have 130, 132, and 133, just doing some damage there. Dylan Johnson, halfback, 6'118" out of Washington, 88 PFF grade. He had 1,189 yards, 5.1 yards per attempt, 16 touchdowns and 2 fumbles. 3 yards per carry after contact, 43 missed tackles forced. So big year for Dylan Johnson. Again, Mitchell looked good on his little bit of opportunities, but outside of that, we don't have a ton. We got Justice Hill, who is, 27-year-old in the final year of his deal. We got to nail down who our starter for the future is going to be. It might be Keaton Mitchell. Either way, he could use a number 2, and that's going to be Dylan Johnson if that ends up unfolding in that way. Pick 163 is going to be Xavier Thomas, edge rusher out of Clemson, 6'2", 255. I mentioned we really could use some extra bodies as well as some talent. Xavier Thomas is hopefully going to be that guy. As you can see, probably getting a little bit up in age, 6 years at Clemson, but a good pass rusher, 43 pressures. Not a ton of sacks, but 43 pressures on less than 300 attempts is pretty solid. He also had 40 this year out of 283, 6 out of 37, so he's been consistent with that. This is a really solid pass rusher, and the run defense hasn't been terrible. So looks like he's got some injuries he's been contending with, But, he's going to come in, he's going to compete, and he should be able to get some snaps considering the lack of, at the very least, the lack of depth. At pick 225, we got Juwan Briggs, defensive tackle out of Cincinnati, 6'2", 297 pounds. Again, you'd kind of expect this to be a little bit more of a pass rush situation. I'm not super seeing that with the pressure rates and everything else. We got about 10% right here, but just 3 sacks. But whatever. He's going to come in. He's going to do whatever he can do. Somehow appears to be more of a run defender. But look, Baltimore's got a really good defensive culture, a lot of great defensive coaches. Whatever it is he's going to do, they'll figure it out. But either way, we do need to bolster that interior. We got more bodies in there. He's certainly going to be a backup, at least for a while. And who knows, maybe in the near future can be a starter. Finally, at pick 247, we get Jalen Green, another edge rusher, this time out of James Madison. 6'1", 245 pounds, a little bit more undersized, but 56 pressures on less than 300 attempts and 18 sacks. The guy was an absolute powerhouse in the little bit that we got to see from him. Let me refresh this real quick just to see if we can get the prior years. But again, we need bodies as edge rushers. So he's going to hopefully be able to come in and win himself a roster spot. Come on, let me just see a previous year. I'm just curious to see if this has been consistent. And they don't list his age. So it's nice to see sometimes if they've been in school for a while, but that's not going to work. Anyways, here is that mock draft once again by Mr. Dakota Sanders, Troy Fontanu, however you say it, Kalen King, McKinley Jackson, Jacob Cowling, Tyke Smith, Dylan Johnson, Xavier Thomas, Juwan Briggs, and Jalen Green for the Baltimore Ravens. Again, if you like the mock draft, do me a favor. I don't need that. Do me a favor. And like, share, subscribe, do the whole thing. Let me know that this is the mock draft that should get the $100. If not, find a different video. Find out which one did the best and let me know. But you guys have a great rest of your day. I'll talk